My stepchildren said, "You're nothing without mom." So I took back everything I bought and filed for separation. She transferred the title to her ex, and the court took it back. It started with silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the kind you earn after a long day and a clean kitchen. This was a silence that thickened the air, made the walls feel closer. The kind of silence that creeps in when you finally realize you've overstayed your welcome in a home you built with your bare hands. I shut off the Wi-Fi. That's all I did. One click on the router app, a small, unremarkable action, but it carried the weight of years. Years of being ignored, dismissed, disrespected in my own house. And the boys, my stepsons, heard it immediately. Not the click. The consequence. Brian, 20 years old, came stomping down the stairs like a landlord confronting a squatter. He didn't ask. He demanded. "What the hell is this? You turned off the Wi-Fi?" I didn't answer. I was standing in the kitchen, rinsing a plate. My hands were wet, the sponge still full of soap. I kept scrubbing. Trevor followed, 17 and full of that teenager swagger that only comes when you've never paid a single bill in your life. "Seriously?" he snapped. "You're nothing without mom. This is her house." There it was. 6 years, and that sentence finally found its way into the open. I should have felt rage, or shame, or something, but I didn't. I felt still. Like when you realize the storm's already passed and what's left is just the wreckage. I put the plate in the rack, dried my hands, walked right past them. No word, no expression. I went straight to the garage. The truck sat there under the humming fluorescent light, the Dodge I bought Brian when he finished his first year of community college. Not because he earned it, but because I wanted to believe he might grow into a man who deserved it. I opened the toolbox, grabbed the screwdriver, removed the license plates one by one. I laid them in the back seat, opened the glove box, and pulled the title folder out from beneath the old insurance slips. My name, my signature, my truck. They said I was nothing. Then they don't get to keep what nothing paid for. I sat in the cab with the door open, the weight of the folder in my lap. It was strange, how light it felt, like the paper had been waiting all this time for me to notice what it meant. Not just ownership, not just proof of purchase, but a promise that I still had choices. That silence wasn't the same as surrender. I had been married to Melissa for 6 years, moved from Waco to Austin just to be closer. I uprooted my HVAC business, took a hit on contracts and old clients, all because I thought if I showed up, if I worked hard enough, I'd become part of something. Family. A unit. I believed love could be built with patience. Brian was 14 when I came into his life. Trevor was 11. Their father was a shadow, sometimes a phone call, sometimes a late check that always seemed to get lost in the mail. I stepped in. I bought school clothes, paid for braces, showed up to every open house and football game, even when they pretended not to see me in the bleachers. I didn't try to replace anyone. I just showed up, every damn day, and in return I was tolerated. Just enough that Melissa could keep the peace. Just enough that the boys could keep taking. Never enough to earn a seat at the table without having to ask. The disrespect wasn't loud at first. Came in size. Eye rolls. That sideways glance they'd share after I spoke. Like I was the substitute teacher whose lesson they didn't need to hear. I let it slide. Told myself it was normal. Blended families take time. Teenagers test limits. Maybe when they grow up, they'll understand what I gave. But disrespect is a seed. You ignore it long enough, it doesn't go away. It grows. Deep. Wide. Until it starts cracking the walls of everything you built. Melissa didn't water it, but she didn't pull it out either. That's what killed me. I asked her just once to speak up. "They don't have to like me," I said, "but I need them to respect the house and the man paying for it." She looked up from her phone, shrugged. "You knew what you were signing up for." That sentence broke something, not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. She wasn't confused. She wasn't unaware. She had just decided my role was fixed. To pay, to provide, to endure, to shut up and keep going. That night with the Wi-Fi wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't a loss of control. It was clarity, cold and sudden. When Trevor said, "This is her house," I saw it all. Every ignored chore, every choreographed rebellion, every time they looked through me and Melissa stayed quiet. All of it had been leading here. They didn't just believe I was nothing. They had been raised that way. I sat in the truck, the title folder in my lap, the silence wrapping around me like a coat. I could hear them inside, stomping, yelling, probably calling Melissa, waiting for her to take their side because she always did. They wouldn't come out here. Not to the garage. That was my domain. The only room in the house where my presence was unquestioned. Not because they respected it, but because they didn't care what I did out here. That was the moment I knew it was over. Not with a fight, not with a scream, but with a quiet vow. They called me nothing, so I would become exactly that. To them, to their accounts, their phones, their streaming services, their gas tanks, their insurance, their tuition. The next morning I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't slam doors. I wouldn't write a letter or make a scene. I would just start the slow undoing of my presence. Line by line, connection by connection. Every dollar would retreat. Every favor would expire. Let Melissa explain that to them. Let their real dad pick up the slack. I had done enough pretending. Enough paying for love that never came. Enough sitting at a table where the plates were full but the respect was empty. They said I was nothing. And I listened. Tell me, what would you have done? Would you have stayed? Would you have paid? Or would you have finally listened, the way I did, when your worth was measured in silence? They called me nothing, so I acted like nothing. And nothing, it turns out, has a long reach when it starts pulling its name off the bills. I woke early the next morning, before the boys stirred, before Melissa got back from wherever she had gone the night before. I brewed my coffee the same way I always did, 2 sugars, 1 cream, but the kitchen felt colder. Not from the air, but from something underneath the surface. A finality I couldn't name yet. The kind of chill that doesn't come from weather but from revelation. I opened my laptop. First, Brian's bank card. I was the co-signer on the account. Privilege, not a right. Froze it. Click. Then Trevor's debit allowance. Linked to my business account. Gone. Deleted the profile. Click. The Netflix? Cancelled. The Hulu? Removed. Spotify? Family plan adjusted, down 2 names. Amazon. No more free 2-day shipping for the ungrateful. Then the big one. Brian's tuition. His 3rd semester had just started at Texas State. I was paying monthly, auto-debit from my business account. I logged in to the university portal, found the Financial Services tab, and hit Cancel Payment Schedule. The window asked if I was sure. 3 times. I said yes. Then I paused his health insurance. Another window. Another warning. Another yes. Each click was a confession. Not to them. To myself. That I had kept this ship afloat with bare hands and bloodied knuckles. And it was sinking anyway. So I let go. And when you stop bailing water, the flood comes fast. By 8:30 a.m. the text started. Brian. Yo, something's wrong with my card. Trevor. My phone's not working, WTF. Melissa. Why are the boys saying you shut off their stuff? I didn't answer. Not yet. I left the house. Drove to my old apartment, the one I kept after we married. Just in case. Everyone said I was paranoid for keeping it. Melissa hated that I kept paying rent on it. But I needed a place that was mine. A place that didn't echo with contempt. I brought a duffel bag. Just the essentials. A few clothes. Laptop. Tools. Documents. By 11 a.m. Melissa was calling. I answered. Not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted her to hear the difference in my voice. Where are you? She asked. Packing. What the hell is going on? Brian says you froze his tuition. I did. What? Why? You told me I was nothing. I'm just acting accordingly. She went quiet. I let the silence stretch. Finally. You're overreacting. No, Melissa. I've been underreacting for 6 years. She tried to pivot. So what? You're just going to destroy everything? No, I said. I'm just going to stop funding the lie that I'm part of it. I hung up, drove to the courthouse, filed for legal separation. 6 pages. Signed, dated, delivered. I had the lawyer on retainer already. Told him this might happen. He didn't ask questions. Just nodded and said, "Took longer than I expected." A week later, I found out Melissa had tried to transfer the title of my Dodge Ram to her ex-husband. She used my name, my signature, falsified documents. I only found out because I got a notice from the DMV. Address change on a vehicle I supposedly no longer owned. My stomach turned. I called my lawyer, sent him the title, the receipts, the insurance. All in my name. Melissa didn't deny it when I confronted her. "We needed the truck," she said. "It's just a name on a piece of paper." "No," I said. "It's my name, and you stole it." Her voice rose. "It's not stealing. You're just being petty. You're wrecking this family because of a few words." "No," I interrupted. "I'm protecting what I built before I stepped into your mess." She screamed that I was heartless, that I was abandoning the boys, that I was taking food out of their mouths. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. The same mouths that told me I was nothing were suddenly empty when the meals stopped showing up. We took it to court. My lawyer filed for an injunction. We requested an immediate halt to any asset transfers. Presented the falsified documents. The judge looked unimpressed. Melissa's ex didn't even show up. 2 months later, the ruling came down. Title transfer invalid. Truck returned. Trailer and tools returned. All records reinstated in my name. Melissa didn't show up to that hearing either. I drove the Ram home that day, not to her house, to mine. Parked it in the garage of the old apartment complex, the same one I hadn't let go of. Walked up the 3 flights, sat down, looked out the window, and for the first time in months I breathed. Not relief, not joy, just the absence of weight. But weight doesn't just vanish. It moves, shifts, finds new places to settle. Back at the house, the collapse began. Brian couldn't drive to campus. The truck was gone. Trevor's phone was still disconnected. Melissa tried calling my accountant. Said it was a mix-up. Said we needed to sort out our finances. I emailed her a PDF of the legal separation filing. Subject line, "It's not a mix-up. It's done." That night, I slept without checking my phone. No alarms. No new payments. No responsibilities I hadn't asked for. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. The next day, I heard from a mutual friend that Melissa had asked her ex to help with expenses. He declined. Brian got a job doing food delivery at night. Trevor skipped school twice that week. Melissa texted again. "You win. Hope being alone feels good." I didn't answer. It wasn't a win. It was a wound that had finally been allowed to scab over. It hurt, but it was healing. They never asked why I stopped. Because they already knew. They had pushed the wrong man too far. They mistook endurance for weakness. Sacrifice for stupidity. They thought because I didn't bark back I was harmless. They forgot that silence doesn't mean surrender. It means calculation. It means the man you think is passive is just waiting for the moment when you finally tell him he's nothing, so he can show you how loud nothing can be when it walks away. I walked. I walked from the bills, from the obligations, from the guilt they tried to sell me like a subscription. And when I did, the whole house leaned sideways. You'd be amazed how much a man can hold together when he's invisible. But once he's gone, everything trembles, everything cracks, everything shows its real weight. That's what Melissa didn't understand. That's what the boys never saw. They thought the money came from nowhere. They thought the truck, the phone bills, the food in the fridge, the tuition payments were just background noise. They thought being a man meant being a wallet they didn't have to thank. And maybe that's my fault. For giving too long. For staying too quiet. For thinking love was earned through repetition. But that silence is over now. This is the sound of the doors closing. The accounts locked. The titles reclaimed. And for the first time, they are standing in a house without scaffolding, without safety nets, without the invisible man who made everything run. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need apologies. I just needed my name back. And now I've got it. When I cut the cord, I expected silence. But silence was too much to ask. What came instead was noise. Ugly, panicked noise. The kind of scrambling people do when the free ride they mistook for forever finally hits a wall. It started with the truck. Brian came out of the house one morning and found the driveway empty. He stared at the spot like it had vanished by magic. He stomped back inside, yelling for Melissa. I wasn't there to hear it, but I imagined every word. Where the hell's my truck? Not his truck. My truck. The one he wrapped around a curb last fall and I paid to fix without a word. The one I kept in working order while he used it to visit girls, drive to classes he barely attended, haul beer for parties I pretended not to know about. Gone. Next came the phone. Trevor tried texting his girlfriend at lunch and got the no-signal screen. No data. No calls. No connection. I watched the aftermath unfold in real time. Melissa tried calling me 6 times that day. Left 3 voicemails. Texted once. Can we just talk? I didn't answer. I had already spoken. With paperwork. With silence. With distance. And then the panic mutated. Melissa called my accountant. Said there'd been a mistake. Said we must have confused something in the transition. Said I surely didn't mean to cancel all the joint billing arrangements. My accountant sent her a screenshot of the legal separation. She never called him again. I slept easier that night than I had in years. A week later, I heard through a friend that Melissa had tried leaning on her ex again. The one who showed up twice a year and left just as fast. The one the boys still called Dad, like it was a badge of honor. The one they used to measure me against every time I said no. He told her no. No to picking up the tuition. No to Trevor's new phone. No to covering groceries just this once. Suddenly, her war chest was empty. Brian took a night shift delivering for a grocery app. Trevor started skipping school. Melissa started showing up at work looking tired, pale, angry in that hollow way people get when the bottom drops out and they have to admit they were never standing on solid ground. She sent me another text. Melissa, you win. Hope being alone feels good. It was short, petty, but I read it twice anyway. Not because it hurt, because of what it revealed. She thought this was about winning. She thought this was a game. As if I wanted this. As if I spent 6 years working, providing, enduring, just to get to a point where I could nuke it all out of spite. No, I wanted peace. I wanted a family. I wanted respect. But when you don't get respect, you either rot or leave. I chose to leave. The boys stopped calling me by name. Not that they used it often before. But now they couldn't bring themselves to say it at all. I became him. As in, is he coming to pick up his stuff? Did he cancel the card on purpose? Why didn't he warn us? Melissa started telling people I had gone cold. That I abandoned the family. That I was dealing with something. She left out the part where her sons told me I was nothing. Left out the part where she nodded along with their disrespect by saying nothing. Left out the part where she falsified a title to a truck I bought with my own hands. I didn't defend myself. Didn't reach out. Didn't post my side online or send dramatic emails to mutual friends. I didn't need to. Truth has a weight. And eventually, it starts to show in people's faces. I bumped into Brian at the hardware store one afternoon. He looked like hell. Unshaven. Shirt stained. Eyes red like he hadn't slept. He saw me. Froze. Looked down at the bin of bolts like they were going to save him. I said nothing. Walked right past. That night, he sent me a message. You could have handled this differently. I didn't reply, because I had. For 6 years. The collapse wasn't loud. Not anymore. It was quiet. Insidious. The kind that eats a house from the inside. Melissa stopped trying to guilt me. She tried flattery once. Melissa, I know things got hard, but maybe we could just talk. The two of us. Remember when we used to laugh about the boys' messes? I didn't respond. Then came the legal documents. She tried to delay the separation process. Claimed there were assets, mutually acquired. Tried to get partial rights to my apartment. Tried to reopen the title issue. My lawyer squashed it in 2 weeks. Everything on my end was documented, filed, proven. Every receipt, every payment, every drop of sweat. Mine. Melissa's lawyer eventually stopped responding. I signed the final papers on a Wednesday, a quiet moment in a sterile room. No drama, no shouting, just ink. And freedom. What stayed? The echo of the words they said. What left? Everything that depended on my silence. The masks came off in stages. Brian started telling friends I was controlling, that I had always been cold, that I never tried to connect. Funny. I remembered the hours I spent teaching him how to change brake pads, the Saturdays I gave up to sit through his soccer games, even when he benched himself just to play on his phone. The weekend I spent helping him write a resume because he wanted a job at the music store. A job he bailed on after 3 shifts. Trevor started telling people I never treated them like my own. Never mind the birthday parties, the braces, the school laptops I paid for, the nights I stayed up fixing the Wi-Fi so he could finish his projects, the time I covered his field trip fees after his real dad ghosted again. Melissa told her sister I was never emotionally available. And maybe that was true. Maybe I held back. Maybe I never let myself get fully vulnerable. But how do you open your chest when every time you breathe, someone reminds you that your heart isn't theirs? How do you let love bloom when the soil is poisoned with comparisons? Now I wake up alone, in my apartment, my name on the lease, my paycheck funding only my life. It's not glorious. There's no parade for a man who walks away from his own footsteps. But it's clean. There's peace in knowing you're not financing your own humiliation. Sometimes I sit on the balcony with a drink, looking out over the quiet street. No yelling, no slamming doors, no footsteps charging down the hall to scream about Wi-Fi. Just air, light, space. They don't call anymore. I think Melissa finally realized the game was over, that there was no angle left, that I was truly gone. And the boys? They won't apologize. Because apologizing would mean admitting the foundation of their comfort was a man they told didn't belong. That would hurt more than the discomfort they're sitting in now. So they stay quiet. Let the silence do the talking. And I'm fine with that. Let them sit in it. Let them feel the weight I carried for them. Let them miss the warmth they never thanked. You can only be invisible for so long before you decide to disappear on purpose. They told me I was nothing. Now they know what it feels like to live without me. And still, part of me wonders if one day they'll wake up and see the difference between a man who loved them quietly and a man who left loudly. But by then, it'll be too late. The mask is off. And what's underneath? Just a man who finally kept his name. Just a man who finally said no. 2 months later, I stood in line at the county clerk's office and signed my name for the last time. Melissa had finalized the separation. There was no ceremony, no apology, no last-minute attempt to fix anything. She sent the papers through her lawyer like she was closing a subscription. The woman who once asked me to raise her sons was now just a printed signature beneath a black line. I signed. There was no hesitation in my hand. The clerk stamped the file and passed it to the next window. A transaction. Simple, cold, permanent. I walked out into the afternoon sun, and it didn't feel like freedom or victory. It felt like air in my lungs for the first time. Not clean, not sweet, just air. Breathable, bare. And I didn't look back. That night I cooked dinner in silence. 1 steak, 1 drink, 1 chair. It wasn't celebration. It wasn't loneliness either. It was a ritual, a declaration. I ate slowly. Let each bite remind me that peace doesn't come from comfort. It comes from clarity. What stayed? My name, my work, my truck, my tools. The years I built before I ever met Melissa. What left? The illusion, the weight, the empty hope that love could be bartered through effort. I got my accounts back. I changed the locks on the storage unit where I kept my old equipment. I moved the remaining titles, business records, and registrations into a fireproof safe in my apartment. Every trace of my name that had been wrapped around their lives, I took it back. Even the dog, Charlie, stayed with me. They didn't ask for him, didn't fight for him. That told me everything. He lays beside my bed now, old but loyal. A creature who doesn't care whose blood I share, only that I show up and keep the bowl full. Maybe that's all I ever wanted. Melissa texted once more, about a month after everything was signed. Melissa, Trevor's grades are slipping. Just thought you should know. I stared at the screen for a while, not because I was tempted, but because I remembered the nights I sat with him at the kitchen table, helping him sound out algebra problems while he scrolled his phone under the table. I remembered the way he looked at me when he didn't understand something, how he'd glance up, not with trust, but with the expectation that I'd do it for him. And I remembered the way he turned that same face to Melissa every time I asked for even a sliver of respect. I didn't reply. Not my son. Not anymore. Brian emailed me about the truck. Said he was ready to make things right. No apology. Just the phrasing of a man who wanted a key back in his hand. I didn't open it. Marked it unread and dragged it to trash. He doesn't need a truck. He needs a lesson. What they never understood, and what I failed to teach, is that the man they ignored was the man keeping them above water. You don't get to spit in someone's face and still ask them to catch you when you fall. But that's how they were raised. Melissa let it happen. Not by screaming. Not by siding with them explicitly. By standing still. By staying silent when they told me I was nothing. That silence wasn't neutral. It was a choice. And now, she's watching it echo through her life, louder than any argument we ever had. Brian delivers groceries in a borrowed car. Trevor borrows phones from friends. Melissa borrows excuses. I don't miss the house. That place was never mine. My name wasn't on the deed. She bought it before we met, and she reminded me of that every time I asked for so much as a say in the living room furniture. You knew what you were signing up for, she said. Yes. And now I know what I'm signing out of. Let her pay the HOA fees. Let her cover the utilities now that Brian and Trevor have no income. Let her explain to their father why she assumed I'd foot the bill indefinitely. Let her explain to her friends why the man who never yelled and always paid suddenly vanished from the Christmas card photos. Let her carry the silence she used to hide behind. It belongs to her now. I got a voicemail from Trevor, maybe 3 weeks after the separation. His voice was quieter than I remembered. Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I didn't mean what I said that night. About you being nothing. I was mad. I wasn't thinking. I missed the truck. I miss you. I think. Pause. You helped. A lot. I see that now. I guess I never said thanks. Pause again. Then, anyway, that's all. Click. I didn't call back. Not because I didn't hear the regret, but because regret isn't a cure. It's a scar. And scars don't ask for second chances. They just remind you not to get cut the same way again. Charlie's starting to slow down. His legs don't hold like they used to. We take shorter walks. He naps longer. I carry him down the stairs when his hips lock up. But he looks at me the same way he did when he was a pup. Like I'm the whole world. And in some small way that's enough. To be seen. To be wanted. Not for money. Not for what I provide. But just for being there. 6 years in that house and I never got that look once from either of those boys. That's what stayed with me. Not the yelling. Not the cold dinners. Not the missed holidays. The absence. The refusal to see me. To acknowledge that love takes effort from both sides. You don't get a father by inheritance. You earn one by respect. And they never tried. Now I wake up and make my own coffee. I drive my own truck to my own jobs. I don't carry the weight of anyone else's ego. My fridge is small but full. My tools are in order. My bills are paid on time. It's a quiet life. A small one. But it's mine. And no one rolls their eyes at me in my own kitchen. No one ignores me when I speak. No one uses my silence as a stepping stone. What stayed? The lesson. What left? The lie. Sometimes I wonder what they tell people now. If they still say I flipped out. If they tell some softened version of the truth. If they ever sit in that living room, Wi-Fi cutting in and out, the air a little too hot, the fridge a little too empty, and think of me. Think of what I held up. Of how little I asked in return. of how quickly they pushed me out once I stopped serving their comfort. I hope they do, not out of spite, but out of clarity. So they learn, so they see, that you can only treat someone like nothing for so long before they finally believe you and disappear. And when they do, you learn the cost of your cruelty. You learn what it feels like when nothing leaves. So now I ask you, was I wrong? To stop paying? To stop showing up? To stop letting myself be reduced to a wallet with a heartbeat? Would you have stayed? Would you have kept writing checks to boys who couldn't look you in the eye? To a woman who let them mock you under her roof? Would you have bent further? Or would you have drawn the line, like I did, and finally stepped back into your own life? Tell me, if you'd been told again and again that you were nothing, what would you have done when they finally said it out loud? Would you have left? Because I did. And the silence that followed was the first honest thing they ever gave me.